so-called Palestinians, are they, or not?
But they also settled in that Canaan area.
It was full of a mixture of people who used to get on.
Yes, but that was going back to.
You had Hitler, and you had that guy in Jerusalem, who got together. We need to murder all the Jews, with scant support from the Quran.
No, I will dispute the Quranic narrative, because clearly the Quran teaches that they are the people of the book. That's number one. There are verses which seem to criticize some of the actions of certain communities amongst them, who would often go against their prophets, and therefore it makes, just as the New Testament makes criticism of them as well. So does the Quran. But generically speaking, it's not anti-Semitic. Otherwise, the question is begged.
Well, I think coming out of Hamas coming out of the Gaza Strip and killing 1,000 partying Israelis, that's a little bit anti-Semitic.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, obviously Arabs are Semites as well.
And then, there's no relevancy again.
Yeah.
You've got a cult.
Pardon?
You've got a death cult in Gaza. An offshoot of Islam that wants to kill all the Jews in the world. Then they'll start with Christians.
I think that's a bit, when you say,
there's support for this in the Quran.
I mean, you do know historically, when the Jews were subjugated in Europe, and they took refuge in Spain in particular, under the Muslim rulership for several centuries, and they thrived, essentially speaking. And when the Muslims,
taxes, and they weren't allowed certain jobs.
No, that's unfair, because those taxes, which is a common misnomer. See, the Muslims pay taxes themselves, which actually was more than the non-Muslims. The one you're referred to is called
talking about Ramadan. Yes.
So what the Muslims end up doing, so if you're under the Muslim caliphate at that particular time, you, as Muslims, pay tax,
but you're
but
not
as
under their
non-Muslims,
protection if you're told you can't have certain jobs.
no, that's not the case, because even,
That was the case.
I'll explain to you,
And
even,
also in several areas, they were massacred. In several areas, they were forcibly converted. In several areas, they were thrown out.
what in the
How many
Quran,
Jews are there in the rest of Arabia?
I mean, you'd be surprised, there's a number in places like in Iraq, Syria, Morocco,
At the decreasing Christians in those areas.
Iraq, Morocco, Syria, there are a number of Jews still
How
there.
about Egypt? What's the Christian population of Egypt?
10% of about, so it's about 10 to 12 million, I think.
It was. It's about 1% now.
No, it's 10%.
They killed thousands.
Do you want me to show you? I can actually show you that 10% of the Egyptians are Coptic Christians.
No, they've been thrown out. They've been attacked. So that after the various wars, civil wars in Egypt, the police stopped protecting the Coptic. And thousands of them have been murdered. Without any police intervention, because they're just Christians, they're not.
Well, I mean, the Egyptians did the same thing with the Muslim Brotherhood as well. They eliminated them as well. So who they're working for, we don't know. So we have to be realistic.
You have the good Muslim Brotherhood and the bad Muslim Brotherhood. So the Muslim Brotherhood that feeds people, this is one thing. The Muslim Brotherhood who wants to kill everybody else.
I think, you know, when you say...
supports terrorism.
I don't think there's some... I mean, terror, let's face...
They gain political position by feeding people and trying to help them get jobs, being good people, being a good Christian people, in fact. And then when they've got their position, they turn it into terrorism.
I think...
You know, the world has given over and over and over again to the so-called displaced Palestinians. That money goes in, it's immediately stolen by Hamas. So Hamas has made about $4 billion since they tried to kill the Jews in that party. $4 billion has been given to help the people of Gaza, and Hamas has stolen it.
I know...
There's a huge amount of food aid goes in. It's stolen by Hamas.
I know there's some mismanagement. I agree with what you're saying. I know there's some mismanagement which takes... However, I mean, I do know Benjamin Netanyahu did say, go back a number of years, that we need to finance and support Hamas to stop the Fatah and the other political parties in Gaza upholding the community. So this is available on YouTube. Benjamin Netanyahu has expressly stated that we need to finance and support Hamas. He clearly explicitly says this. So obviously, I mean, let's face something. Let's be brutally honest. When the 7th of October,
you have a cult of a small cult of Muslims in Gaza who want to kill all the Jews in
No, I don't think that's. I think because
it's in their constitution.
I don't think so.
When they
Where
say
can
they
you
want
show?
peace, they want peace to withdraw and regroup and do it again. They said
They
that.
won't be able to. And the
They
reason
have
for,
said this.
but they
And
won't be.
They have the support of the entire
Okay, if that is a concern of Jews in Israel, Israel is a nuclear state. No, none of those other.
Exactly. If Israel really wanted to do a genocide on Gaza, they could have done it in a click of a finger.
Click of a thing, I agree. However,
what was genocidal was the Hamas attack on the Jews.
yeah, so we know there is a historical background to this. There are counter narratives which are taking place that, in Gaza there are natural gas reserves, oil reserves, which have now been found.
It's immensely complicated.
I know, but what we're saying is that when these events took place, there are counter narratives which suggest that the Israeli authorities knew of this. They were doing incursions into Gaza, so the Hamas, they responded by sending ballistic. Can I make my point?
Arabic fiction.
Well, it's not Arabic; it's independent attestations.
Muslim fiction. It's Muslim support.
Well, so how do we know then that
for these dregs of people who are in Palestine that no other Arab country will accept because of the trouble they cause?
Well, okay, so do you deny then, for example, what happened with the King David Hotel when the Israeli they were... No, but we've got to look at things historically.
Two wrongs don't make a right. We have that saying.
But when you are subjugating a people historically and you're curtailing their right to exist...
Subjugated, there's plenty of Muslim Arabs in Israel, they have rights. The women can drive cars, they have a vote. When I was there years and years ago, the mayor of Nablus was an Arab. It's a democratic country. About
Okay, can you...
10%
Okay.
of Israeli are Israeli Arabs who do not, obviously, support the various attacks on Jews.
But what about when it comes to...
Peacefully there. This is not the same in Arab countries.
Okay, there is no Hamas in the West Bank. How then do you count for the massacres which take place there on regular? Like I think last year, according to UN stats, 600.
You know the history of the West Bank. You know the history of Transjordan. You know the business of the Palestinians going in and causing insurrection in Jordan. You know all this.
But the
you know the lands that were lost after the war, where the Arab nations attacked Israel and they took back by conquest and even returned certain lands when they were asked to do so.
Well, I mean that's 67.
Peace.
Yeah, that's 60.
But there is no peace with the Arabs. They want to eliminate the Jews.
No, that's unclear because prior.
No, I'm sorry.
Can I just make my point as well? I mean, I know you're very obviously passionate, and I'm not Arab myself, but at the same time, it's important for us to understand. Post the Balfour Declaration, and I'm sure you're aware of the contents of the Balfour Declaration, where the Arabs were promised their land back. Jews were living side by side with Muslims for centuries. There was no extermination.
You're talking about the disaster where they were told to leave there, we'll eliminate the Jews and you can have your land back.
Well, I don't think there is any evidence to suggest that this took. Can you give me some considered evidence? Who was behind it? What plans were? But you need to substantiate. I mean, I can't do the homework. Yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, fair enough. At the same juncture,
if you look at unbiased sites away from the Arabic propaganda.
All I want to say is one quick thing, very quick. Prior to 1970, we all agree the Arabs and the Jews and Christians were living peacefully side by side.
And they were in Lebanon.
Okay.
Look what happened to Lebanon. Lebanon was the only country which allowed the Palestinians in. Within 2 years, they had wrecked the country.
Okay, but let's just...
I find it very, very difficult to be sympathetic to any of the Gazan Palestinians because of their support from little babies for killing Jews. If they would just stop, this war that's going on at the moment in Gaza, how do you stop that? Do you do it by eliminating Hamas, or do you do it this way? Hamas surrenders, gives back the hostages, stops attacking Jews. The thing is finished.
Yeah, well, what I would like to say in order to...
And I'll tell you something else. The Jews would help them rebuild.
Unfair statement because
the British would stop it. According to the mandate they had, there was a certain number could go into Palestine. When that was exceeded, the British were stopping them, and that was the cause of the argument between the Jewish side and the British side.
Yeah, but what I'm saying
to you... know that, don't you?
No, what I'm saying, my understanding... Winston Churchill...
There is a difference between the Jewish people wanting to set up their homeland, which they've been praying for 3,000 years,
That's based on the assumption that it's their land.
And attacking the administration of.
But that's based upon the assumption, biblical assumption, that the land of Israel belongs to the state or children, or the land of Palestine rather, belongs to the children of Israel. But we've just accepted that there were already the where does God say that?
Well, it's the promised land.
For who? Because they were when they were freed.
The Old Testament is your book. It's all in the Old Testament.
So when they were freed from bondage, they were given land from the Nile to the Euphrates. It wasn't that the land of Palestine was designated to them as their land. They took it by force. Everybody knows that. You read the Old Testament. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Those who resisted.
Yeah, so they took that by force. Like the Canaanites and the Philistines.
Coming back to the King David Hotel, so there you have somebody who's trying to establish a country, but they are annoyed because the people running the country are not allowing their people back in, which is a sort of problem. And but these were not hippies dancing. This was not an idea to massacre all of the English because they were Muslims. It's just entirely different.
I think the idea was perpetuated at the time because
you can realise they're entirely different, or won't you back down on that either?
Sorry, what's the exact point?
But an attack on the King David Hotel is in no way similar to the attempted genocide by Gazans on Jews.
Well, the reason I'm looking at the historical context in which can I make my point at least?
You keep saying about a historical context.
So the historical context was that at that time, because they wanted they wanted the British out so they could continue with their brutality of what they were enacting. So because killing the British officials.
About 10% of ours with a vote don't have to wear ridiculous costumes. Women can drive.
Ridiculous costumes. It is a ridiculous costume.
No. The women can drive. The women can be educated. They are. People can hold official positions.
Okay, let me say something to you.
This does not happen in any other country.
Okay, so let's look what's happening here.
Women and certainly Jews aren't allowed those positions.
Okay, women over here, are women dominating in society over here? In matrimonial affairs, women are dominating. Men are now subjugated. Why do we have organisations such as Families Need Fathers, Fathers for Justice? When we have these issues where women now are in positions of dominance, if a divorce happens, what happens commonly? She goes away with everything. The estate, the children, the men are left to beg. That is because by...
This is the flux, nothing to do with the current argument.
No, but because you made the point about women, the Gazans do not want to kill... Gazans want their land back.
You said that the Jews wanted to get rid of the Arabs in Israel.
1940,
they did not. They never have. They've allowed them there. They've allowed them to vote. They've allowed them to run. They allowed them to run net levels until they started to cause problems, and it had to be governed again.
But the country already at that belonged because the Arabs were.
Education in the Arab world.
But the Arabs were promised the land by the British at the Balfour Declaration. There was no understanding that it would be a creation of a state of Israel. So the British were two-timing everybody. Okay, yeah, we all know that. But the point being, at the same juncture,
not relevant.
It is because the Sykes-Picot.
I don't know. Your mind is not clear, sir.
Give me an opportunity to explain. The Sykes. Are you aware of?
Explaining by taking the argument somewhere else.
I'm looking at the historical context.
An incisive argument. There are people. There's a cult within Gaza that wants to kill every Jew on the planet.
I don't believe that.
Oh well, I do believe it.
I don't.
So there we have an insurmountable thing. I am saying
because the evidence for me.
Want us to believe it.
Now, the evidence for me is that prior to First World War, 1917, there was no conflict between the Arabs and the Jews. That's evidence for me.
Lebanon was a wonderful country with many, many different religions and a great culture until they let the Palestinians in. Then they wrecked the entire country.
Well, I mean, that's just open to conjecture, isn't it? I mean, what's the evidence that they wrecked the country?
Do read some history, educate yourself, please. I know I'm being rude there, but please educate yourself in some proper history away from all the propaganda.
Can you give me some sources, some citation, some scholarly academic research into this?
Well, it shouldn't be difficult. You're an intelligent man. You can find it.
I'm just learning.
You can recognise propaganda when you see it.
Well, it depends how you see it, that propaganda. I mean, anyway, I mean, I can tell you as Muslims, we want peace with everyone. However, what our summary task is that there should be justice and fairness to everyone, not just for select people.
British justice
right?
to everyone. Because there is no Islamic justice.
I think that's a bit unfair to say that. Look, do you accept during
impose a system of law which is alien to our culture?
So what is our culture? Can you
Our culture, well, we
define
have
our culture, please? I'd like to hear that.
you know how this is developed in common law.
Okay, what is the culture? Give me an example. What is our culture which is alien to the Islamic narrative?
Well, we have a system of democracy which we rather like here.
Okay, so what does that entail in terms of day-to-day living, which is counter to the Islamic narrative?
Because the Islamic people want a caliphate.
So what would that involve?
Caliphate doesn't involve elections, does it?
Of course it
doesn't
does.
involve women voting, does it?
What it does involve is the regimented.
I hope it's something Muhammad, bless him. He wanted women to have power.
Yes. No. What?
But he had to recant on that and rewrite bits of the Quran because the people around him wouldn't accept it.
No, because he actually fought against them because they were the same pagans who were trying to, when the daughters were being born, they were being buried alive.
Oh, I know.
So he took a stance against that, and he sacrificed everything for that.
Yeah,
Everything.
He's very positive things about Muhammad,
Yeah.
and there
Yes.
are also, unfortunately, some very negative
Those
things
negative
about
things.
the culture which he fought.
No. Those negative things were supposedly derived once he gained some sort of power when he migrated to Medina. But what that was, essentially speaking, it's a common polemic against his post-Meccan period where he was persecuted and subjugated. He then went forward to Medina, where he was able to come within a community. People understood his fairness and his equitable manner. They chose him as a leader, and then the Muslims resettled simply because they were being subjugated. So when they resettled, he made affiliations, he made friendships with many people, but these pagan Arabs, 250 miles south in Mecca, they were still after his guts. So what did they used to do? They used to still try to invoke him in war, stop his caravans, to murder his followers. So in the end, even as it's been in the Old Testament, for example, when Jeremiah used to fight battles, Moses used to fight battles, the Islamic order was given to fight those who fight you. Fight those, this is a common misnomer given in Surah 9 of the Quran, which states...
So when I say I don't like the cultish body in Gaza that wants to kill all the Jews on the planet, does this mean I'm opposing Islam?
Yes, it would be opposing because
Islam... you want to kill me.
So that's what I didn't quite say. That racket came in the background. Say that once more, I didn't quite hear. Say that again.
Can you run that by you again?
Yes, please, because that music powered it right at the moment.
You don't focus on this. I'm saying
no, but there was a massive
there was a cult in Hamas in Gaza which wants to kill all the Jews on the planet. Can we agree with that?
I don't.
It's in their charter.
Okay, where does it say in their charter?
They said once we can have peace, we can regroup and we can start again. It's in their speech.
Okay, can you show it to me? Where I haven't. I've read their charter. I've read their charter. I don't see anywhere which asks. So they've changed it now.
You said they have changed the charter. But
no, you said to me initially.
The major speakers in charge of Hamas have said they intend to eliminate all the Jews on the planet, and they'll probably start on the Christians after that because they believe that's what.
If that is true, if what you are saying is true, then I'll be totally opposed.
But you've just find it on the Arab supporters.
Okay, but if you can bring.
Recognise when there's propaganda.
Okay, so if I can see the Hamas charter, which states that we are after the annihilation of the Jewish people worldwide, I will go against Hamas.
Oh well, that's fine. We can agree.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, our good friend here, I think, was a vociferous supporter of Israel, as you can imagine. So, this made several points to him. Nowhere does it say in the Hamas, as far as I'm aware, which calls for the killing of every single Jew on the face of the earth. That's nonsense. We spoke a little about the historical context, and we looked at the state of the Palestinian people going back now for 3 generations. They've been suffering and being tortured. Everybody accepts it. It's no wonder the world supports them. People can see what is happening. People know the historical context in which they've suffered for such a long period of time. People are not in the age of learning and in the age of technology, in the age of information. People are aware worldwide what is going on. So for him to come up and state that this is an action perpetuated by Hamas or by Gazans, it's just a complete fallacy. And this propaganda taking place, it's not propaganda, it's visual images we're seeing of the destruction of the inhabitants. 40,000 people have been killed. And this has been going on for a very, very long time in terms of the mass, if you want, extermination of the Palestinian people. So this is simple sour grapes on his part. I think the world is realizing that this Zionist movement is just seeking to implode, and whatever they want, that is what will happen. So may Allah help our brothers and sisters in Palestine. May we have the strength to help them in whichever way and every possibility that we can, because this is going to be a test for us as well. You see, what did we do when watching these incidents take place? We're cozy in our own homes, we're eating, we're drinking, we're going to restaurants, we're having nice food. Are we really even Muslims? That is what I'd question myself. What are we doing for the sake of Allah? We need to wake up, because this could come to us one day. The crescendo against Islam is building up here in the UK, just as it did in Yugoslavia 30 years ago, in Kosovo. That's in roughly about the same time period. So this is up for us to reflect. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.